Have you ever felt that sensation in your body, that quiet vibration that signals something isn't quite right with the place you just entered? That subtle awareness that seems to whisper, "This environment is draining your energy," even as those around you appear completely unaffected? This isn't merely coincidence or hypersensitivity, as some might label it. What you're experiencing is a natural protective mechanism of an empathic soul navigating a world that wasn't designed for beings with such heightened perception. I've witnessed countless sensitive souls enter spaces that gradually dim their inner light, spaces with a weight of discordant energy slowly eroded their natural essence until they barely recognize themselves. The tragedy isn't just in this personal loss of authentic connection to self, but in how our society has normalized environments that are fundamentally toxic to empathic individuals. We've created a world where sensitivity is viewed as weakness rather than the profound evolutionary gift that it truly is. Think about the last time you entered a space and immediately felt your energy shift. Perhaps your shoulders tensed, your breathing became shallow, or your thoughts scattered in 1,000 directions. Your body was trying to communicate something vital about that environment's impact on your energetic system. This isn't imagination. This is your consciousness operating at a level of perception that transcends ordinary awareness. While others might walk through such spaces unaffected, you as an empath are registering every subtle vibration, every emotional residue, every unspoken tension in the field around you. What appears to others as hypersensitivity is actually your consciousness operating at a more refined level of awareness, continuously assimilating information from the environment and attempting to create meaning from these experiences. I remember working with a client, Eliza, who couldn't understand why she felt increasingly depleted despite loving her new corporate job. On paper, everything seemed perfect. The salary, the benefits, the opportunity for advancement. Yet each evening she would return home feeling like a shadow of herself, with barely enough energy to prepare a simple meal before collapsing into bed. When we explore her daily experience, we discover that the open office environment she worked in was essentially a minefield of emotional crosscurrents. She was unconsciously absorbing the stress, competition, frustration, and anxiety of dozens of colleagues for 8 hours every day. Her consciousness was attempting to process and integrate all these emotional inputs, creating a state of perpetual disequilibrium that was literally draining her life force. What she was experiencing wasn't weakness. It was an unrecognized strength operating in an environment hostile to its natural function. The truth about empathic individuals is that they construct their reality differently from others. While everyone builds their understanding of the world through assimilation and accommodation, empaths do this at an accelerated and more expansive level. They're constantly taking in information not just from their 5 physical senses, but from a deeper intuitive awareness that registers emotional and energetic information. This creates a fundamentally different experience of reality, one where boundaries between self and other are more permeable, where emotional states are contagious, and where environments carry palpable energetic signatures that others simply don't detect. This isn't imagination or hypersensitivity. It's a different cognitive framework for processing reality, one that requires specific environmental conditions to function optimally. The challenge for empaths isn't to toughen up, as they're so often advised, but to recognize that their cognitive and emotional structures require different conditions to thrive. Just as a highly sensitive scientific instrument needs specific environmental controls to function accurately, the empathic nervous system requires environments that support rather than override its natural functioning. This understanding represents a profound shift from viewing empathic sensitivity as a liability to recognizing it as a sophisticated perceptual system that simply has different operating requirements. With this understanding as our foundation, Let's explore 7 specific environments that empaths should approach with extreme caution if they wish to preserve their authentic essence and the gifts that come with their unique perception. These aren't places you must avoid entirely, but rather spaces where conscious protection of your energy becomes essential to maintaining your well-being and the integrity of your empathic abilities. The first environment that poses significant challenges for empathic individuals is crowded urban centers with constant sensory overload. Cities with their dense populations, cacophony of sounds, visual stimulation, and concentration of electromagnetic frequencies create an energetic environment that can quickly overwhelm an empath's sensitive system. When you walk down a busy city street, you're not just navigating physical bodies and concrete structures. You're moving through fields of emotion, intention, and energy that others emit. While someone with a less sensitive system might filter these inputs automatically, your consciousness absorbs them like a sponge, attempting to make meaning from each fragment of information. This creates a state of cognitive disequilibrium as your mind works overtime to process this deluge of sensory and energetic data. Many empaths find that after extended time in urban environments, they experience symptoms like mental fog, emotional exhaustion, heightened anxiety, or a sensation of being energetically fragmented. This isn't because there's something wrong with you, but because your system is processing levels of input that would overwhelm any sensitive instrument. If you must spend time in dense urban environments, developing clear energetic boundaries becomes essential, as does creating regular opportunities to decompress in natural settings where your system can recalibrate. The second challenging environment is conventional corporate workplaces with competitive dynamics. Traditional corporate settings often operate on principles that are fundamentally at odds with empathic functioning. These environments typically reward aggressive competition, emotional detachment, and prioritizing profit over people. As an empath, you naturally assimilate the emotional states of those around you, which means you're constantly absorbing the stress, anxiety, and pressure that permeates most corporate cultures. This creates a profound internal conflict, as your natural inclination toward compassion and cooperation clashes with expectations to compete and separate yourself from emotional considerations. Over time, this conflict forces many empaths to accommodate by suppressing their natural tendencies and adopting behaviors that feel inauthentic. This accommodation doesn't just cause discomfort. It gradually erodes your connection to your authentic self as you develop cognitive schemas that contradict your natural way of being. Many empaths in corporate settings report feeling like they're wearing an uncomfortable mask all day, only come home too exhausted to reconnect with their true nature. If your work requires you to operate in corporate environments, creating intentional practices for energetic clearing and authentic self-connection becomes essential for maintaining your empathic integrity. Pause for a moment and reflect on your own experience in environments like these. Have you noticed how certain places seem to diminish your natural abilities while others enhance them? Have you felt the need to protect yourself in specific settings, or experience a relief that comes when you finally exit a space that was unconsciously draining your energy? I invite you to share your experience in the comments by completing this simple phrase. I protect my empathic nature by... Your shared wisdom might be exactly what another sensitive soul needs to hear today. I read every comment and find that our collective experiences create a powerful map for navigating the world as sensitive beings. The simple act of acknowledging your empathic nature and how you care for it can help others who may be struggling to understand their own sensitivity. The third environment that requires careful navigation is places of intense emotional discharge like hospitals, prisons, or emergency services. These settings are characterized by concentrated emotional extremes: fear, grief, rage, desperation, and profound suffering. When you enter such environments, these emotions don't just remain contained in the individuals experiencing them. They create an energetic field that an empath system naturally attunes to and begins to process. This isn't just a theoretical concept. The body actually responds physiologically through processes like emotional contagion and mirror neuron activation. Your nervous system begins to mirror the stress responses present in the environment, triggering cascades of stress hormones and neurochemical changes. Even with strong boundaries, extended exposure to such emotionally charged environments can create a state of empathic overload where your system can no longer distinguish between your emotions and those you're absorbing from others. This cognitive confusion leads to a breakdown in the equilibrium between assimilation and accommodation, as your mind struggles to integrate experiences that aren't actually yours. Many empaths drawn to healing professions find themselves burning out not because they lack commitment or skill, but because their nervous systems are processing the emotional experience of dozens of suffering individuals daily. If your calling leads you to these environments, implementing rigorous energetic hygiene practices becomes not just helpful, but essential for sustainable service. Fourth on our list are places of artificial stimulation and escapism like casinos, nightclubs, or environments centered around substance use. These settings are designed to override natural sensory processing through overwhelming stimuli. Flashing lights, loud music, artificially manipulated atmospheres, and often the presence of substances that alter consciousness. For empaths, whose systems already process sensory input at heightened levels, these environments can trigger sensory processing overload. Beyond the sensory aspects, these places often harbor energetic undercurrents of addiction, desperation, artificial euphoria, and emotional escapism. As an empath, you don't just intellectually observe these dynamics. You feel them on a visceral level as your system naturally attunes to the emotional frequencies in your environment. This creates a particularly challenging form of cognitive disequilibrium, as your body may register emotional distress even while your conscious mind is receiving messages of pleasure or excitement. This disconnection between bodily knowing and conscious experience can be profoundly disorienting for empaths, sometimes creating a sense of unreality or dissociation. Many sensitive individuals report feeling energetically hungover for days after exposure to such environments, even without consuming substances themselves. If you choose to participate in these settings, doing so with full awareness and implementing practices for energetic protection becomes crucial for maintaining your equilibrium. The fifth environment that presents significant challenges is toxic family gatherings or social obligations with unaddressed dysfunction. Perhaps no setting tests an empath's boundaries more intensely than family systems with entrenched patterns of emotional manipulation, denial, and unprocessed trauma. These environments are particularly challenging because they connect to your earliest experiences of forming schemas about relationships and reality itself. When you enter family systems where genuine emotion is suppressed, where truth is denied in favor of comfortable narratives, or where certain individuals are permitted to violate boundaries without consequence, you experience a profound cognitive dissonance. Your empathic nature allows you to sense the unspoken emotional currents, the suppressed grief, the unacknowledged resentments. Yet the social contract within these systems often demands that you ignore these perceptions. This creates an internal split where your natural cognitive processes of assimilation and accommodation come into direct conflict, as you're expected to override your actual perceptions to maintain family harmony. Over time, this pattern can lead empaths to doubt their own clear knowing, creating a dangerous disconnection from their intuitive wisdom. Many sensitive individuals find that after family gatherings, they experience symptoms like emotional exhaustion, confusion about their own feelings, or a temporary inability to access their normal empathic gifts. Creating clear boundaries around family engagement and developing practices to reaffirm your perceptions becomes essential for preserving your empathic integrity. The sixth environment requiring careful navigation is online spaces dominated by conflict, outrage, and divisive discourse. While not physical locations, digital environments have very real impacts on an empath's nervous system and cognitive functioning. When you engage with online spaces characterized by attacking communication, moral outrage, polarization, and dehumanizing language, your empathic system doesn't distinguish these inputs as just virtual. Your body responds physiologically to the emotional content you're absorbing through the screen, triggering stress responses and emotional contagion just as in physical encounters. What makes digital environments particularly challenging for empaths is the volume and concentration of negative emotional content, often unmitigated by the balancing nonverbal cues present in physical interaction. Your system attempts to process and make meaning from this barrage of emotionally charged information, creating states of cognitive overwhelm and emotional taxation. Many empaths report that after consuming conflict-heavy social media or news, they experience residual anxiety, emotional heaviness, or a diminished capacity for presence in their actual lives. This isn't weakness. It's a natural response of a highly attuned system to concentrated emotional input. Being intentional about your digital consumption and creating practices for clearing this energy becomes essential for maintaining your empathic well-being in our increasingly virtual world. The seventh and perhaps most insidious environment that empaths must approach with caution is conventional educational or professional training settings that discount intuitive knowing. These environments, while not overtly hostile, often operate from paradigms that systematically devalue and delegitimize the very ways of knowing that are natural to empathic individuals. In these settings, logical analysis is elevated while intuitive synthesis is dismissed. Quantifiable data is considered valid, while felt experience is labeled subjective or unreliable. As an empath, your cognitive processes naturally integrate multiple streams of information simultaneously, including emotional data, energetic awareness, and pattern recognition that operates faster than linear analysis. When you're immersed in environments that consistently message that these modes of knowing are inferior or invalid, you begin to develop cognitive schemas that disconnect you from your natural gifts. This isn't just philosophically problematic. It creates a practical impediment to your development as you're forced to translate your natural knowing into approved formats that lose much of their original insight and power. Many empaths report experiencing a kind of cognitive split in academic or professional training, where their deepest knowing becomes separated from their expressed understanding. Over time, this separation can become internalized, creating barriers to accessing your own wisdom, creating space for honoring your intuitive processes, and finding validators who respect this way of knowing becomes essential for empaths in conventional educational settings. What connects these seven environments is not that they're inherently negative, but that they demand modes of functioning that conflict with the natural cognitive and energetic processes of empathic individuals. Understanding this isn't about labeling yourself as fragile or incapable, but about recognizing that different cognitive systems have different requirements for optimal functioning. Just as you wouldn't expect a highly sensitive scientific instrument to provide accurate readings in environments with interference, your empathic system requires certain conditions to operate with full clarity and power. The process of protecting your empathic nature involves developing awareness of how different environments impact your system, creating boundaries that honor your needs, and implementing practices that help you maintain connection to your authentic functioning even when circumstances require you to navigate challenging spaces. This isn't selfishness. It's responsible stewardship of the unique perceptual gifts you carry. The journey of the empath in today's world is one of learning to honor your natural way of constructing reality while developing the resilience to navigate environments that don't yet recognize the value of empathic perception. It's about understanding that your sensitivity isn't a weakness to overcome, but a sophisticated system for perceiving reality that simply has different operating requirements than less sensitive systems. When you approach your empathic nature with this understanding, you transform what might otherwise be experienced as liability into one of your greatest assets. If what I've shared resonates with your experience, if you felt that sense of recognition that comes when someone articulates something you've always known but perhaps couldn't express, I invite you to join our community of awakening souls who are learning to navigate the world with their sensitivity intact. This channel exists as a sanctuary for sensitive beings, empaths, and intuitive souls who are remembering the power and purpose of their gifts. If you felt understood here today, if something in these words reflected your own experience back to you in a way that brought clarity or validation, consider subscribing to this channel. You're not just joining a platform. You're connected with a field of consciousness where sensitivity is honored as the evolutionary gift it truly is. The decision to subscribe is about more than content. It's about creating intentional connection with others who share your way of perceiving and processing reality. Whether you choose to join us or simply take what was helpful from this offering, know that your empathic nature is not a burden to manage, but a profound gift that the world desperately needs, even if it doesn't yet fully understand its value. The path forward isn't about trying to become less sensitive or learning to tolerate environments that drain your essence. It's about honoring the wisdom of your empathic system by creating a life that supports rather than depletes your natural functioning. It's about recognizing that in protecting the integrity of your sensitivity, you're preserving not just your personal well-being, but your unique capacity to contribute to a world in profound need of empathic wisdom. Your sensitivity isn't random or accidental. It's an essential quality for the evolution of human consciousness, a capacity for connection and understanding that points toward our collective potential. By honoring and protecting your empathic nature, you're not just caring for yourself. You're preserving a way of knowing and being that carries transformative possibilities for our shared future.